Right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to be looking at Acts chapter 20, verses 1 through 38.
Ooh.
We're following Paul as he wraps up his third missionary journey and heads back to Jerusalem. And, we know danger is waiting for him there,
Yeah.
but what's going through his mind, as he says goodbye, possibly for the last time,
Yeah.
to all the people that he loves.
It's interesting, because he's not alone, right?
Yeah.
He has a whole entourage.
Oh, yeah.
Sopater, Aristarchus, Secundus, Gaius, Timothy, Tychicus, and Trophimus.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of people. I mean, it really does paint a picture of a traveling community.
It really does.
I mean, what kind of people do you think were drawn to travel with Paul, knowing all the risks?
I think it really speaks to the power of his personality and the just compelling nature of his message.
Right.
These were people who were willing to risk everything, to spread the gospel, to be part of something bigger than themselves.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a casual stroll through the countryside. Verse 3 mentions that some Jews were plotting against Paul as he was getting ready to sail for Syria, so he had to change his plans and go back through Macedonia. This constant threat really adds another layer to the story, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, this wasn't like a pleasure cruise.
Wow.
This was early Christians faced real persecution,
Right.
and Paul, as a prominent leader, was
Yeah.
a constant target.
Oh, yeah.
So knowing that, it really makes his determination even more remarkable, I think.
For sure. Okay, so picture this. Paul's in Troas,
Okay.
and he's preaching late into the night.
Wow.
I mean, we're talking midnight here.
Really?
A young man named Eutychus falls asleep and tumbles right out of a window. This scene always stuck out to me.
Oh, yeah.
Why was Paul preaching for so long? Was this common practice back then?
Well, early Christian gatherings weren't like our modern church services.
Right.
You have to imagine like these intimate gatherings, often in homes, fueled by the intensity of a new faith spreading in the midst of the powerful Roman Empire.
Yeah.
The excitement, the sense of community, the hunger for this new message, it all contributed to these like extended gatherings.
So it's not just that Paul liked the sound of his own voice.
Right.
He was meeting a genuine need for teaching and connection.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, this event with Eutychus falling asleep during such an important gathering, it adds a layer of human fallibility to the narrative.
Yeah, it does.
And, it also underscores the miraculous power at play when Paul raises him from the dead.
That resurrection is a powerful moment. Beyond the actual miracle, what kind of symbolic meaning do you think that held for the early believers?
I think for the early Christians, it was a very potent reminder of spiritual awakening.
Wow.
It showed that even when we stumble, even when we lose sight of the truth, God's grace can bring us back to life.
Yeah, that's powerful. It's a powerful message of hope, and it reminds us that even in those early days, maintaining faith wasn't always easy. So after Troas, Paul continues on and eventually reaches Miletus, where he calls a meeting with the Ephesian elders. This is where the story gets really poignant, because Paul knows this is likely goodbye.
Yeah.
This farewell speech always gets me.
Yeah.
It's like Paul's leadership playbook.
Yeah.
What stands out to you as like the most crucial advice that he gives?
There's so much packed into this farewell, but he really emphasizes humility and service,
Yeah.
reminding them that leadership isn't about power, but about caring for the flock.
Right.
He also warns them about future challenges, those who would distort the message and lead people astray. It's almost prophetic,
Yeah, for sure.
isn't it?
It's like he's preparing them for all the battles ahead.
Yeah.
But amidst all those warnings, there's this incredible outpouring of love and emotion. We hear about tears and embraces and the elders clinging to Paul.
Oh, wow.
You can almost feel the weight of their sorrow.
Yeah.
And it really makes you appreciate the deep bonds they formed.
Absolutely. Paul spent 3 years pouring his heart and soul into building the community in Ephesus. They were like family to him.
Yeah.
Imagine the mix of emotions, sadness, concern, but also a deep sense of purpose in fulfilling his mission.
Yeah, that's true. Wow. And in the middle of all this emotion, Paul makes this really interesting statement.
Yeah.
He says, I am pure from the blood of all men. That sounds intense.
Yeah.
What do you think he meant by that?
It's almost like a legal declaration.
Yeah.
A statement of accountability.
Great.
He's affirming that he's faithfully proclaimed the gospel to everyone, holding nothing back.
Oh, wow.
He's saying, I have done my part, and now the responsibility rests with them.
So he's acknowledging that he can't force anyone to believe.
Right.
But he's been diligent in sharing the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that really ties in nicely with his charge to the Ephesian elders to take heed to themselves and the flock.
Yeah.
It's like he's passing the torch of leadership.
Precise. He's entrusting them with the care of the community, urging them to be vigilant against those who would seek to mislead them.
Yeah.
And he's not just speaking in these vague terms. He gets really specific about the dangers they'll face.
Yeah, he talks about grievous wolves entering the flock and men arising from your own selves speaking perverse things. That's chillingly specific.
Yeah, it is.
It makes you wonder what experiences shaped those warnings.
I think it reveals Paul's deep understanding of human nature
Yeah.
and the potential for corruption even within a community of believers.
Right.
He's not being pessimistic,
Right.
just realistic.
Yeah.
He knows that challenges can come from both outside and within the group.
It's a good reminder for all of us
Yeah.
that we always need to be discerning even within our own communities. But Paul doesn't leave them with just warnings and anxieties.
Right.
He also reminds them of his own example.
Yeah.
He says he ceased not to warn everyone night and day with tears.
That's powerful.
That is powerful. It really highlights the depth of his commitment.
He's calling them to that same level of passionate dedication.
Yeah.
That same willingness to pour themselves out for the sake of the gospel.
And he balances that call to action with a beautiful reminder of hope.
Yeah.
He commends them to God and the word of his grace, which is able to build you up and to give you an inheritance among all them which are sanctified. It's a beautiful reminder that even amidst difficulties,
Yeah.
God's grace is sufficient.
Absolutely. And that it's not just about spiritual blessings.
Right.
Paul also emphasizes the importance of practical care,
Yeah.
of supporting the weak,
Right.
of remembering that it is more blessed to give than to receive. This echoes that sense of community we talked about earlier, right?
Absolutely. It brings us full circle back to those traveling companions.
Yeah.
That spirit of shared purpose and support that characterized Paul's ministry.
This farewell address really encapsulates Paul's entire ministry.
Yeah.
His tireless service, his unwavering commitment to the gospel,
Right.
his deep love for the people he served.
And it culminates in this incredibly moving scene.
Yeah.
Everyone's weeping, embracing Paul, kissing him goodbye.
Oh, wow.
It makes me wonder, have you ever had a goodbye that felt that weighty, that full of emotion?
It's a universal experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
That feeling of loss when someone we care about moves on.
Right.
But in this case, it also speaks volumes about the impact Paul had on these communities.
For sure.
It wasn't just about his message, it was about the life he lived.
Right.
He modeled faith, courage, and love in a way that touched them deeply.
And while it is a goodbye, there's also a sense of continuation.
Right.
They accompany him to the ship, kind of symbolizing their ongoing connection.
Yeah.
They're physically parting ways, but their shared journey, their common purpose, continues.
This reminds us that the Christian life is a pilgrimage. We may have different paths, different destinations, but we're all walking together, supporting one another, striving towards the same goal.
And even though Paul is heading towards danger in Jerusalem, there's no sense of despair in this farewell. There's a resolute confidence in God's plan, a trust in his ultimate victory. Knowing what awaited him, what do you think gave Paul that strength to continue?
Throughout this chapter, we see his unwavering focus on the mission.
Right.
His own safety, his own comfort. Those things take a back seat to his commitment to fulfilling the ministry he received from the Lord Jesus.
It's inspiring, isn't it?
It really is.
He's not letting fear paralyze him. He's pressing on, knowing that his life is ultimately in God's hands.
Yeah. And that brings us back to our listeners.
Okay.
What can we learn from Paul's example? What challenges are you facing right now that might require that same level of courage, that same unwavering commitment to your purpose?
Yeah, it's a powerful question to reflect on for me. I think Paul's example reminds us that leadership isn't about titles or positions.
Right.
It's about serving others even when it's difficult, even when it demands sacrifice. And it's about sticking to your convictions, even when you face pushback. You know, Paul never shied away from challenging conversations.
Right.
He spoke truth even when it wasn't popular. What stands out to you about how he approached those tough conversations?
What strikes me is that he did it with such humility and compassion.
Yeah.
It wasn't about winning an argument or proving someone wrong.
Right?
He genuinely cared about the people he was talking to, and that shines through.
It really does. It's like he embodies that idea of speaking the truth in love.
Yeah.
He's a powerful example of how to live out our faith in a complex world.
Yeah.
It's easy to get discouraged when we look around, but Paul's story is a reminder that we can make a difference.
Absolutely. We're called to be lights in the darkness, to speak truth with love, to serve others humbly. And just like Paul had his companions, we have each other.
Yeah.
We're part of a larger story, a community of faith that stretches across time and continents.
Even when we face goodbyes and loss and separation, we can hold on to that hope of reunion. The promise that our journey doesn't end here. That's a beautiful thought to end on.
Yeah,
This chapter in Acts is just a glimpse into a much larger story.
it is.
And I encourage you to keep exploring, keep digging deeper into the lives of these early believers.
Yeah, you never know what might resonate with you, how their experiences might connect to your own life, or what timeless truths you might uncover.
So keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep diving deep until next time. Happy exploring.